So my name is Kosar. I am a second generation Somali refugee, and I have been, an immigrant rights organizer for the past, several years, and I've been working here in Tennessee, and I think at the national level as well, to advance the rights of immigrants and refugees across the state and across the country. And I've been involved with SEIRN, I believe, since December of 2022. I have felt a sort of kinship to the CERN board, the CERN family, just based on the shared values that we all have. We understand that the work, especially in the Southeast, is very, very hard. We're fighting against, these sort of forces that are hell bent on, kicking our communities out, marginalizing us. And so there's a sort of kinship that's there that's different from other regions of the United States and other states. I think kind of coming into CERN, especially as someone who, really worked with, Black API Middle Eastern communities, I am wary of the fact that a lot of our immigrant rights, work and movement is it centering those communities specifically. And so I think initially I was, a bit sort of unsure or just, of CERN's mission and the people that they were serving. But I think joining that board and joining that work, I think really made me look at CERN in a different way because they were willing to have these sort of necessary conversations about making sure that Black API Middle Eastern communities are included and that it's not necessarily centering one community over others. It's actually not countless times. This is really a multi-ethnic, multi-generational movement. This is an organization that is centering all of our identities, all of our experiences, and is trying to ensure inclusivity for all our communities. That's kind of what made, I think, CERN a very unique space because they were ready to have those hard conversations as an immigrant rights movement. It's very vital for marginalized communities to understand that, if we're divided, then, it's easy for, our communities to be rolled over and, silenced and not heard. But if we're together, we have a very large voice. There's a sort of unique opportunity to really show our power as these marginalized communities and to fight back against white supremacy and discrimination and bigotry. Different movements, whether it's racial justice, whether it's human rights, whether it's LGBTQ plus rights or immigrant rights. That there's a thread that connects us all together, and it's the fact that we're all marginalized, the fact that we're not in a, we're in a country that espouses equality, but there isn't that, and we haven't realized that yet. And so it's very, very important for us to really come together and build coalitions. Start from the grassroots level. I think that's very, very key to really bring about any change. I think it's it starts at the local level, and then we kind of work our way up. But it's important that we really all come together and realize uh, you know, the issues that are very prevalent and common within our communities, and to I think fight against that. And it was very unique, being in a space where it wasn't sort of English centered, and that I had to look at interpretation because I think I've taken that for granted. For the longest, English has been kind of the main sort of language for our communications. I think it was really great. I think it's a learning experience and also just understanding of like the struggles that people who require interpretation who are in these meetings that are very English centered go through. And so I really appreciated the fact that we were able to kind of like turn that on its head in a way and make English kind of a secondary to the primary languages that are spoken in our movement and in our work. I think it also shows CERN's priorities in that they're trying to really accommodate folks who whose English isn't their first language, or who can't speak English at all, because I think we sometimes forget that there's so much value and I think knowledge that's lost because of the lack of translation and the lack of interpretation. And so now we're able to hear from people who aren't able to sort of convey it in the, in English, but are able to convey in other languages. And so their value is very, very important, and I think was missing, and now is a part of our conversation. I think for the longest, states like California, states like New York have been kind of these sort of like, quote unquote leaders, or people are fundraising, or people are donating to those organizations or to those regions. But I think because of that, the Southeast is being neglected. And I think that's something that, again, is a detriment to our community, because of the fact that the Southeast really is a testing ground for a lot of these anti-immigrant and anti-refugee policies and rhetoric. And if things pass in the Southeast, then they can become sort of a place on the national stage.
Mhm.
And I believe that it's important that we, stop these policies and stop this rhetoric before it's, given a national platform. I think, SEIRN and the work of SEIRN has been to highlight that, hey, the Southeast isn't lost. These states aren't lost, are lost causes. That it's actually, you're not throwing away money by investing in our organization and our movements here. I think connecting that with, I think, the largest struggle, I think SERN has been able to kind of really convey that, and is conveying that. And I think we're seeing more and more of, a, recentering of the conversations, and a sort of, a prioritization that of the Southeast, because of SERN. And I think that has helped, because, there is a network to fall back on. There is a support system that is there that wasn't there prior, for the longest time. And so I think that's kind of where I believe I see CERN's role, and that there needs to be a robust Southeast immigrant rights network that connects movements across these different states to really make sure that the Southeast is a welcoming region for all. If the immigrant rights movement was a body, metaphorically, I believe CERN would be the feet, and that's because of the fact that, I think the work of CERN, I think the mission of CERN is really to be that foundation, and to really lay that groundwork. Being able to be firmly planted on the ground, to be grounded, to be, have that sort of local lens to our work, to our movements. I believe that, the feet are kind of probably the most symbolic of that aspect. I see CERN's role as really laying those seeds for and ensuring that the ground is fertile for a lot of this change. And so we're trying to find that fertile ground, right, and finding that seed. And I think CERN, I think, is playing that role of really trying to understand the landscape, understand, where we are as a movement, and, in our work. And then, through sort of the cultivation funds, and some of the other sort of leadership development opportunities that CERN has been leading, that is sort of the seeds for this fertile ground to ultimately, sprout, flowers, and just hope